I'm a night janitor at an old high school on the outskirts of town. It's a big place built in the early 1900s and has a creepy feel at night. The school is surrounded by thick woods, and the only road leading here is cracked and overgrown. Most of the teachers say the school is haunted, but I never believed in ghosts. I usually work with my buddy Carl, but for this month, I was alone while he recovered from a car accident. It didn't bother me too much, but sometimes the silence felt too heavy. 2 weeks into the month, I was taking out the trash when I noticed 3 figures standing at the edge of the trees. They weren't moving, just watching me. I couldn't see their faces, but I could feel their eyes on me. It gave me chills. When I looked again during my next trash run, they were gone. I told myself it was just my imagination, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The next few nights were normal, but then at the end of the week, I saw them again. Same spot, standing still, watching. This time I stood my ground, staring back. After a minute, they disappeared into the woods. I told myself they were just kids messing around, but deep down, I knew that wasn't right. At around 1 a.m., I went to the staff lounge to eat my sandwich. As I scrolled on my phone, I heard something. A soft tapping. It was coming from the hallway. My heart started racing. I put my phone down and listened. Silence. I walked to the door and peeked out. Nothing. I shook my head, convincing myself it was just an old pipe or a rat. I went back to my sandwich, but I couldn't stop thinking about the noise. Instead of sitting around, I decided to do another walkthrough. The school had long hallways shaped like a giant U. At one end was the main entrance, and at the other was a rusty fire escape that hadn't been used in years. The fire escape door had a huge chain and padlock on it to keep kids from sneaking in. As I reached the far end of the hallway, my stomach dropped. The padlock was on the floor, broken clean in half. The door was slightly open, creaking as the wind pushed against it. My hands started shaking. Someone was inside the school. I turned and ran back to the security room, locking the door behind me. My heart was pounding so loud I could hear it in my ears. I pulled up the security footage. As I scrolled back, I saw the moment I had been outside watching those figures. While I was distracted, they had crept around the back of the school, snapped the lock, and slipped inside. My blood ran cold when I saw what happened next. They were inside the building the whole time. When I went to the lounge, one of them was hiding just outside the door, only a few feet from me. The tapping sound? That was one of them testing if I would come out. While I was watching the hallway, they were moving deeper into the school. And then I saw it. One of them, crouched in the dark just behind a row of lockers, waiting. My hands fumbled for my phone as I dialed 911. As I spoke to the dispatcher, I kept watching the screens. My stomach twisted when I saw the feed from the main hallway. The figures weren't hiding anymore. They were walking straight toward the security room. I held my breath as the dispatcher told me to stay quiet and that officers were on the way. The figures stopped in front of the security room door. I could hear them breathing. One of them reached for the doorknob. I gripped a heavy flashlight, ready to fight if I had to. Suddenly, sirens blared outside. The figures turned and ran. I heard the fire escape door slam open as they escaped into the night. The police arrived minutes later, searching the school and the surrounding woods, but they never found them. The next morning, the principal reviewed the security footage. His face turned pale as he told me to forget what I saw. He replaced the broken lock and never spoke about it again. I quit that same week. To this day, I wonder what would have happened if I had stayed in that lounge just a little longer, or if I had been too slow to lock the security room door. Some nights, I wake up, heart pounding, convinced I hear tapping outside my window. It was a cold, rainy night in late October. I worked the late shift at a 24-hour diner in a small, quiet town. My name is Lisa, and I was the only waitress on duty that night. My coworker, Jake, was the cook, and old Mr. Miller, the owner, was in his office doing paperwork. We had a few customers come in and out, mostly truck drivers and night owls grabbing a quick meal. Around 3 a.m., Jake went outside for a smoke break, leaving me alone in the front. The diner was nearly empty except for one man sitting at the counter. He had come in about an hour ago but hadn't ordered anything. He just sat there, staring at the clock on the wall. He wore an old, tattered coat, and his hood was pulled over his head, casting shadows over his pale face. His eyes never left the clock. Something about him made my skin crawl. The doorbell jingled and a woman rushed in, soaking wet from the rain. She looked terrified, her chest rising and falling as she tried to catch her breath. She had a deep cut on her arm, and her hands were shaking. "Please, please help me," she gasped. I ran around the counter to her. "What happened?" I asked, but before she could answer, she looked behind her, eyes wide with fear. Then I heard it. A slow, heavy thudding sound, like boots walking on wet pavement. I turned toward the door, but I saw nothing outside except the rain pouring down under the flickering streetlights. Jake came back in, stomping his boots. "Hey, what's going on?" The woman grabbed my wrist tightly. "He's coming," she whispered. "Please don't let him find me." My heart pounded. I helped her into a booth and grabbed the first aid kit from behind the counter.
If you're enjoying this chilling tale so far, don't forget to hit that like button. It helps more people discover these terrifying stories. And if you're into real-life horror and the unexplained, make sure to subscribe so you never miss a new nightmare. Got a friend who loves creepy stories? Share this video with them, if you dare.
I stole a glance at the man at the counter. He was still staring at the clock, not reacting to anything happening around him. Then the lights flickered. The air suddenly felt colder. A chill ran down my spine. The bell above the door jingled again, but the door never opened. Jake cursed. "Damn wind!" But I knew it wasn't the wind. A shadow moved outside. It was tall, unnaturally tall. It stopped right in front of the window, but I couldn't see a face, just darkness. A long, twisted hand pressed against the glass, leaving a wet smear. The woman whimpered, hiding her face in her hands. "No, no, no." Jake grabbed a bat from under the counter. "Stay here." He walked toward the door, but before he reached it, the bell jingled again. The door was still locked. The man at the counter finally moved. He turned his head slowly toward me. His eyes were completely black. No whites, no pupils. Just darkness. The woman screamed. The lights went out. For a moment, everything was silent. Then a whisper filled the room. A voice so soft yet so sharp, it sliced through the darkness. "You let me in." The lights flashed back on. The man at the counter was gone. The shadow outside was gone, but the door was open, swinging slightly in the wind. The woman sobbed, shaking violently. "He's inside now," she choked out. Jake locked the door, his face pale. What the hell was that? I didn't know. I didn't want to know. Mr. Miller rushed out of his office, confused by the noise. We told him everything, but when we checked the security cameras, the footage was missing. It had been wiped clean. The woman refused to leave. She begged us not to make her go outside, so we let her stay until sunrise. When the first rays of daylight peeked through the windows, she finally stood up. But before she left, she looked me dead in the eyes and whispered, "He's still watching." That was 3 years ago. I quit that job the next day. But every night, at exactly 3 a.m., my doorbell rings. And when I check the peephole, no one is there. But I always see the shadow, standing at the end of my driveway, waiting. I was working late at the Silver Pines Motel. I was the only one at the front desk, and since it was the off-season, there weren't many guests. I didn't mind, though. It gave me time to read my book and sip on my hot cocoa. The wind howled outside, rattling the windows, and rain tapped against the glass like tiny fingers trying to get in. Around midnight, the front door creaked open, and a man stepped inside. He was tall, wearing a dark hoodie, and had a thick, unkempt beard. His sharp eyes scanned the lobby before he finally walked up to the counter. I put down my book and forced a smile. "Need a room?" I asked. He shook his head. "Just looking." Then, without another word, he turned and walked back out into the stormy night. I watched as he got into his car, sat there for a moment, then drove off. Something about him unsettled me, but I brushed it off and returned to my book. Half an hour passed, then headlights appeared outside. My stomach dropped when I realized it was the same car. The man stepped out again, but this time he didn't hesitate. He walked straight up to the counter. "Do you have a bathroom?" he asked in a low voice. Yeah." "Down the hall to the left," I replied, pointing. He nodded and walked toward it. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. He wasn't doing anything wrong, but my gut told me to stay alert. I glanced at the security monitor. The bathroom door was closed. Minutes passed, then 10, then 20. He still hadn't come out. A shiver ran down my spine. What was he doing in there? Just as I was debating whether to check, the front door swung open again. A police officer stepped inside, his uniform soaked from the rain. His face was tense as he scanned the lobby before locking eyes with me. "Do you know whose car that is outside?" he asked urgently. I swallowed hard and pointed toward the bathroom. "He's in there, hasn't come out for a long time." The officer's expression darkened. Without another word, he marched to the door and banged on it. "Police, open up." Silence. My heartbeat quickened. The officer banged harder, then turned to me. "Do you have a key?" Hands shaking, I rummaged through the drawer until I found the key. I passed it to the officer, who wasted no time unlocking the door. He pushed it open, gun raised. The bathroom was empty. My blood ran cold. That's impossible. He went in there. I never saw him leave." The officer's eyes darted to the ceiling. It was one of those with removable panels. He motioned for me to step back, then called for backup. Minutes later, more officers arrived. They carefully removed one of the panels and shone a flashlight inside. I held my breath. Then, movement. A hand shot down, grabbing at one of the officers. They yanked the man out, and I saw his face. It was him, but his eyes were wild now, filled with something dark and terrifying. As they cuffed him, one officer muttered something under his breath. I barely caught it, but what I heard made my knees go weak. He was waiting up there, just watching. My stomach turned. If the officer hadn't come when he did, what would have happened when I was all alone? Later, I found out the man was a fugitive, wanted for breaking into small motels and attacking women who worked alone. He had been hiding from the cops and picked my motel as his next target. That night, I quit my job. I never wanted to be alone again.
If that story gave you chills, imagine what's coming next. Tap the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you're the first to hear the next true horror. Smash the like button if you survived till the end and share this with someone brave enough to handle it. Until next time, stay safe if you can.